Let's start our study of bonds and interest rates with basic calculus of interest rates. So here is a question. How much do you have to repay for the following debt contract? Today you borrow £1,000 and time to maturity is 2 years. So in 2 years you have to repay. And the interest rate is 0.5% per year. This is a convention in finance. All interest rates should be expressed as an annual rate. Okay? So 0.5% per year. And it's annual compounding. If you don't know the word annual compounding, don't worry about it. All we will see today is just annual compounding. Okay? Maybe in the future I'll explain what compounding is. So what is the amount you must repay in 2 years? This is the equation you're supposed to give. The amount borrowed is £1,000. So 1,000 times 1 plus annual interest rate 0.5%, which is 0.005, to the power 2, because you borrow for 2 years. This is approximately equal to £1,010. So after this borrowing contract, you are supposed to repay £1,010. One important thing is, again, that interest rates are always annual. Okay? You should remember this. Question 2. How much do you have to repay for the following debt contract? Amount borrowed is again £1,000, time to maturity 2 years. Interest rate is now super high, 100%. And it's annual compounding. This is the equation. £1,000 times 1 plus the annual interest rate 100%, which is 1, to the power 2, because it's 2-year contract. This is equal to £4,000, so you must repay £4,000 in 2 years. Okay? Question 3. How much do you have to repay for the following debt contract? The amount borrowed is £1,000. Time to maturity is now 3 months. And the annual interest rate is 0.4%. This is the answer. The amount borrowed £1,000 times 1 plus the annual interest rate 0.004. But this is an annual rate. Remember, interest rate is always in terms of year, annual rate. But you don't borrow for 1 year. You just borrow for 3 months. So you don't have to pay the whole annual interest. So that's why you have 3 out of 12 months here. And this is equal to £1,001. So in 3 months period, you must repay £1,001. So this is another convention in finance. If the time to maturity is longer than 1 year, then the time to maturity appears here as an exponent to 1 plus interest rate. But if the time to maturity is shorter than 1 year, then it appears inside the bracket. Okay? Same thing can be said when you borrow for an even shorter period, like for 1 day. How much do you have to repay for the following debt contract? Suppose you borrow £1 million today, and time to maturity is 1 day, overnight contract, and interest rate is 0.1%. How much do you have to repay tomorrow for this contract? The same, the borrowed amount £1 million times 1 plus interest rate, which is always annual, 0.1% comes here, times 1 day out of 365 days, because you borrow only overnight, and if you compute it, it's approximately equal to 1,002.74 pounds. Question 5. What is the interest rate? The amount borrowed £800, time to maturity 1 year, amount to be repaid £1,000, and it's annual compounding. Now the question is a little different from previous ones. In previous questions, they were just asking the amount to be repaid. Now it's asking the interest rate. This is the equation you're supposed to give. You borrow £800 today, so £800 times 1 plus the unknown interest rate, x, should be equal to the amount to be repaid, £1,000. If you solve this equation, x is equal to 0.25 or 25%. So, if you borrow £800 to repay £1,000 in 1 year, that means that you have 25% annual interest rate. Indeed, 25% of £800 is £200. So 800 plus 200 is equal to £1,000. Okay? Question 6. What is the interest rate? The amount borrowed £750. Time to maturity again 1 year. The amount to be repaid £1,000. The only difference from the previous question is that the amount you borrow today is just £750 as opposed to £800 in the previous question. So the equation is almost the same. 750 times 1 plus the unknown interest rate x equal £1,000, the amount to be repaid. If you solve it, x is equal to 0.333 equal approximately 33%. I'll come back to Q5 and Q6 in a future class. I want you to keep these numerical examples in mind. In Q5, you borrow £800 to repay £1,000 in 1 year, and in that case, the annual interest rate you face is 25%. In Q6, you borrow only £750 to repay £1,000 in 1 year, and in that case, it means that the interest rate you face is now much higher, that's 33% per year. So I want you to understand that if you can borrow less for the same obligation, let's say £1,000 in 1 year, it means that you face much higher interest rate. Okay, this is very important point. Last question. What is the interest rate? The amount borrowed £750, time to maturity 5 years, and amount to be repaid is £1,000. This is the equation. You borrow £750 today, so 750 times 1 plus the unknown interest rate x to the power 5, because you can borrow for 5 years. And this is equal to £1,000, the amount to be repaid in 5 years. If you divide both hands by 750, then 1 plus x to the power 5 is equal to 1000 over 750 equal 4 over 3. And then you take the fifth root of both sides. So probably you need a functional calculator or Excel for this. 1 plus x is equal to the fifth root of 4 over 3, which is approximately equal to 1.0592. So x is equal to 5.92%. So if you can borrow £750 to repay £1,000 in 5 years, that means that the annual interest rate you face is approximately 5.92%. Cool. So we can move on to more advanced topics starting in the next class.